Vita Vita Vegemin. Hey yo, welcome back to my channel where I discuss writer things, parent things, and life things in general. This week, I'd like to discuss some hard truths that we, as parents who aspire to be authors, have to accept about our own writing journeys. I've probably addressed some of these before, but hey, they're worth mentioning again. Writing isn't gonna get itself done. This may be one of the hardest points to accept, but that's why I'm starting with it. We had 3 kids in 3 years, and while raising them when they were little, I did not have a lot of time to write. I wrote short stories and tried to keep a monthly character blog updated, but even just that was sometimes way too much. Which was okay. I had human beings to keep alive, and they should be the priority, especially when they're that little. But it still sucked for my writing career because I had no time to dedicate to it. What I did do though was find other ways to work on my writing so that when I dove back into making it a career, I wasn't completely helpless and still knew what I was doing. Those short stories helped keep my skills honed so that I wasn't completely rusty when I came back to work on a novel. Now I'm taking those old short stories from 5-6 years ago and I'm revising them and editing them for my website. I can really see where I have improved since I wrote them. A short story a month, a short story in 6 months, a short story in a year. Hell, a section of my outline in 6 months or a year is still more than I would have had if I didn't make any time for writing at all. It's hard, and that time doesn't always exist to make. But we're not gonna get any progress if we don't make time when we can make time. Which unfortunately brings me to point 2. Just because we have the time doesn't mean we have the energy. Let's say kids are all asleep. We can sleep in tomorrow because we don't have to get up early in the morning. It would be the perfect time to stay up and get some writing done. Except we don't have any energy. The day is caught up. The mind and the body just are not willing. Even if I'm not sleepy enough to go to bed, normally I was still too tired to actually get any writing done. However, say this is the only time that I've gotten to try to write in days, in weeks, in months even. Well, then I have to remember truth number 1. That writing is not gonna do itself, and sometimes, well, beggars cannot be choosers. When I did write during these times, it took me way longer to write and required a lot more revising when I went to edit. But you know, I felt better about a subpar half of a page after 2 hours than I did with no page after 3 weeks waiting for me to have time and energy. The sad truth was, mom of 3 toddlers, I was almost always tired. But we have to keep our health in mind. I had a vitamin D deficiency that I didn't know about at the time. What I did know was that I tired very easily. So I could only take those nights every now and then, not every single time I had one of those nights. Shit, I'm up writing this script at 3 in the morning because we have plans tomorrow and then I have to film. Which ties us nicely into the next point. Reasons parents may be too exhausted to write every day. Well, parenting's a job. Pursuing writing as a career, a job. Some parents also have a job outside of the home, so that would be 3 jobs. And then there's also those who have multiple jobs. So you see where I'm getting at here, is that writer parents have at least 2+ jobs. All of these jobs require attention, energy, and prioritizing at different times. And when you have to put one aside to prioritize another one, that can cause a lot of guilt, which can turn into a vicious cycle that goes on and on. And other people don't really help that. Say it's a week I have to prioritize something really big for the kids. Like the week that I had to take to paint Michael's room. I had to clean it out, I had to scrub the walls, and then paint the room. And suddenly, any and all questions about writing produce this dark storm cloud of, oh my god, should I have tried to work on writing after I finished working on the room for the day? And the answer was no, because if I tried that, I would have gotten less sleep, had less energy, maybe even made myself sick, and then the room would have taken way longer. However, once the room was done, I took a few days to focus on my writing as much as possible while keeping the kids alive because Chris had to work on the fence in the backyard, trading parenting responsibilities and shit. But I did focus on my writing every moment that I got, even foregoing playing games with the kids that I would have normally loved to play with them, but I had to catch up on work. Assuming you are, in fact, pursuing writing as a career, keep in mind with writing and parenting or any full-time job or responsibility or caretaking role that, well, writing is also a job. And it's going to require all of the time and energy that any job would. Remember how I said other people don't always help? Tip number 4. People are gonna give you bad advice. As parents, this is a given. As a writer, this is also a given. As a parent writer, one of the reasons I decided to start my channel as a writer parent instead of just a writer was because I was so tired of seeing all of this advice for writer parents on how to make time to write that was being given by people without kids. Now, I would give specific examples, but I'm sure that there are going to be people that are like, oh, well, that's not actually bad advice. And, I mean, some of it is fine advice, it's just not applicable to the majority of writer parents. And it's treated like it is, or like it's really easy to do. A lot of times, this advice just adds on to the cycle of guilt thanks to the parental anxiety demon. And I mean, not all advice is going to fit every situation all the time, but it should come from a place of understanding, a place from knowing. When somebody's like, hey, you should make time for writing, I start out with, yeah, that's true. But then they follow it up with something like, what I do is I leave my house to get away from my family. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Who's gonna keep my kids? Huh? A babysitter? You got babysitting money for me? What's important is, just like with parenting advice, we have to learn to sift through the advice and figure out what is applicable to our situation and what isn't without letting it add to our cycle of guilt. Because we're not failing just because we can't use all of the advice that's out there. Nobody can use all of the advice that's out there. For the record though, whether you have kids or not, this is probably a good idea to learn. What, Sam? People are gonna make assumptions and judge us. Oh, shocking news. Okay, but listen. I was in writing communities before I was a parent, and then I joined other writing communities after I became a parent, and it was pretty much the same, except now people want my advice on whether or not a book is child or teen appropriate. From my understanding, we are not conventional parents. And even if we were, I don't have teenagers. I can project what I might think, but I mean, my feelings may change in the, oh shit, I'm gonna have a teenager in 5 years. Anyway, my feelings may change in the 5 years before I actually have a teenager. There's probably gonna be people who judge you for your slower progress because, you know, you have as much free time as everybody else, right? Or, hey, you're not taking it seriously because, you know, you decided to take your children outside instead of working on your chapter. Or, hey, apparently I'm using my children as an excuse so that I don't critique their chapters fast enough. Look, I've never used my kids as an excuse to not critique a shitty chapter. I just sucked it up and critiqued it anyway. I mean, I've never critiqued a shitty chapter. Honestly though, as a writer, a writer-parent, or really just anybody who puts themselves out there, there's gonna be people who make dumbass assumptions and judgments. I'm sorry to say that's the reality. It's just the truth of the matter. What I suggest is supporting yourself. What I suggest is surrounding yourself with supportive people. Support yourself too, though. And hey, you do you. I guess that's all I have for you this week. Oh, wait, it's not. I'm actually revising a new short story for my website. If you're interested in beta reading for it, you can check it out at my website right here. Also, maybe read my other flash fiction that's up there. Or if you'd prefer to just stalk me on social media, that's cool too. I've got Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, and Twitter. If you liked this video, I'd appreciate maybe a thumbs up, comment if you really enjoyed it, subscribe, and perhaps ring-a-ding that bell. Alright, that's really all I have for you this week. I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye! Sam out. And the credits roll. What I did do though, I found the paragraph that's gonna fuck me over. Major part of the reason, excuse you, I just threw a crown at my foot. Well, while staking, I was not staking, bitch.